Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Living Lost podcast. I'm Diana Bernard, and we've decided to replay a very special episode today because, to be honest, I'm sitting right in the middle of this messy middle we talk about. Lately, I've been navigating my own season of loss, and I've been reacquainted with grief brain. It's that feeling of not knowing what day it is or even how time is passing. It's this sense of timelessness and confusion. It's total emotional and physical exhaustion. The kind where forgetfulness sets in and you live in this strange, dreamlike detachment, going through the motions while feeling miles away, distanced. If you ever felt like you're failing at life because you can't remember what was said a minute ago, or you don't have the capacity for one more quote unquote small problem, I am right here with you. Many dynamics can make this situation even harder. What makes this even heavier is trying to navigate relationships during these times. Grief has a way of highlighting strained family dynamics and difficult connections that were already a struggle. When you're already running on empty and trying to manage a complicated relationship, it all feels impossible. There are also friends and family that want to give you quote unquote space, right? And it is often very understandable that people don't know what to say. But reaching out to someone who's grieving just to let them know that they're there, to sit next to them on the couch watching The Good Place or watching something, it is helpful. It's okay to acknowledge that some people in your life might make it harder rather than easier right now. You don't have to fix those dynamics while you're grieving. Sometimes maintaining a safe distance is the healthiest thing you can do for yourself. In the midst of this, there's often a voice, sometimes a small whisper in your own mind, or sometimes it's loud. It comes from outside of you, people around you, telling you that you should be strong. I want you to challenge that every time. This is a time to feel as bad as it actually does. You don't need to rush this process. Your only job right now is to do what you can within your means. This is the season to say no to everything outside of your current capacity. It's time to ask for help, and more importantly, accept it when it's offered. If you have a therapist, now would be the time to reach out. And if you don't have one yet, find a trusted friend or family member who can help you hold that weight. We aren't meant to navigate this loss in isolation. In today's replay, Cassandra and I dive into why our brains lag like a computer with too many tabs open. We talk about empathy fatigue and how to use skills such as DBT accepts to survive the surges. I'm replaying this because I'm currently using these tools and then some to find my own safe space while navigating all of this. So let's normalize needing a minute. I know it's difficult if you can't take time off of work. Here is our conversation on quiet, complex griefs. It's okay to take a minute. Complex grief is difficult. And it still requires us to show up for ourselves with a lot of grace. Here's today's episode.
Hello, friends. I'm Cassandra Harris-Towner.
And I'm Daiana Bernard.
As licensed mental health counselors, we're unpacking the quiet, complex griefs that don't come with a funeral because you can't heal what you don't acknowledge.
Welcome to the Living Loss podcast. We're so glad you're here, joining us in our conversation as we name these losses and create a meaningful path forward together. Please subscribe and share this episode. It helps us grow this community and reach others who need to know that their grief is valid. Let's dive in.
So there's a few things today that we wanted to talk about before we get into the fun part that we're both looking forward to. And the first one was defining grief brain. Now, it sounds a little bit out there, but it's also been considered almost like a brain fog. While we're in the messy middle of a non-death loss, our brain's executive function, which is, that boss of the brain, is completely overwhelmed. It's like having 50 tabs open on a laptop. Eventually, things just start to slow down, things start to lag, and you can't really make 2 and 2 make sense all the time. And it can be really, really frustrating. I remember a couple of years ago when I was dealing with some interpersonal relationships in my marriage, I had grief brain because there was a lot of loss, a lot of acceptance that had to happen. But I felt like I was just walking around in this fog the whole time. I had no idea really whether I was coming or going. And it lasted for quite a while, which is incredibly frustrating. I don't want to feel that way, but it didn't really matter what I wanted. It was just what was going on.
What a wild experience that is. I've felt that too. And it's almost like a dream-like state where you're living, you're going through the motions, but it's this sense of detachment.
I had a nice little existential crisis that came along with that, but I feel like that's a conversation for a different day.
Well, you have an amazing way of making really sad things sound really funny.
My therapist was so excited I was having an existential crisis. She's like, normally this happens when you're older, but now it means that you're advanced in your thinking and you're grieving and you're processing. I was like, cool, can we make it stop?
Yeah, can we? That's a really good point, though. None of this usually comes just one thing at a time. When you just said 50 tabs open, I'm like, that's me on a good day. That's me on a good day with 50 tabs open. And then add on most of those tabs being loss, or actually what I'm going to talk about next, which is empathy fatigue. That's the emotional burnout. As therapists, we are predisposed, or we are more inclined, would that be the word? Right?
Sure.
To experience that when we're listening to a lot of people's losses and while having our own. This concept is interesting because it does sound like you're wearing down, kind of like what you were explaining, Cassandra, but it's also when you start to feel cynical, jaded, because your nervous system is stuck in a state of high alert. And you might notice it when a friend complains about a minuscule or seemingly small problem and you just snap at them. You just get annoyed. You have low tolerance for people complaining or basically anything that might feel like you're taking on more stuff. And it's not just for therapists. It's when you're grieving a loss of a plant, a relationship, something that's really turning your world upside down, but people are not noticing it, you're going to find yourself more annoyed.
It just makes me even think of when I used to work retail. I was assistant manager of a large store, and it was Christmas season, and I was working 70 hours a week during Christmas season, and I had a part-time employee complain about the 20 hours that they had been put on. I did not respond well and had to apologize later on. She was like, "You really hurt my feelings." I was like, "I really responded inappropriately." The empathy fatigue is that emotional burnout. I didn't have it in me to be concerned about her 20 hours comparatively. In hindsight, it wasn't her fault either that I was working an obscene amount of hours.
Yeah. Yeah. Because that annoyance is actually a symptom of your
Mhm.
empathy tank being empty.
And it was of my own doing. I signed up for it. So
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily make it any easier.
No, it
But
doesn't. I think of us as parents too, and being therapists. Even when I was a teacher, I would come home and like, please don't ask me a question. I had zero tolerance for one more question. And then you feel bad about it. You definitely do, because it's not anybody's fault.
well, when you're experiencing these things, when you're experiencing the empathy fatigue, when you're experiencing the brain fog, sometimes we need to like bust out our distress tolerance toolkit.
Mm-hmm.
This is the idea where if our brain is foggy or we feel frustrated and or we need to practice our distress tolerance. It's a set of skills designed to help us survive an emotional surge when you feel that frustration, when you want to say the thing. And it helps make the situation better. The distress tolerance toolkit does, where you won't end up throwing your phone against a wall when you can't find your car keys or you have a flat tire. It's something that we can do that helps alleviate that distress.
The distress tolerance skill comes from a modality called dialectical behavioral therapy, DBT. It's a modality that I use a lot because it's tangible. I hear this a lot. Just tell me what to do. And I think that's a natural experience. What can I actually do about it?
Mhm.
So I'm going to add that particular section. It's called accepts, and it's an acronym for activities, contributing, comparison. And when we talk about comparison, I do want to tell you this caveat. If you can make a comparison for yourself and say, man, it could be worse. This isn't as bad as blank. That feels very validating to you. But if you say that to someone or someone else is telling you that is invalidating. So
Mhm.
I'm sure everyone has experienced, well, don't be so upset. It's not like you did, lost your job, something to that effect. It's not validating. You could only use comparisons for yourself. The
Mhm.
next one is emotions, and emotions is like watching TV, and we're going to be talking about that. Like do something, watch something that changes that emotion. Push away is taking a mental break. Thoughts is thinking about something else completely random. And sensations, which is using your five senses. And this is something I was telling Cassandra earlier, that every topic, every little psychoeducation piece that we talk about could be its own episode, its own workshop, its own thing.
Mhm.
So we're not going deep into anything. If you hear us speak on anything that you want us to do an episode on, that would be really helpful as well, because we can really go in depth into these. So I will be putting those in that particular skill in the show notes.
I think me personally, we definitely should touch on empathy fatigue and what that looks like on a day to day because people are living with it and they have no idea. And that's probably why I get flipped off in traffic from time to time. Like
Goodness, yes.
these things come out in all sorts of different ways. But along with the distress tolerance toolkit that she was just talking about, she mentioned thoughts, like thinking of something random, which is why I really do enjoy watching really random television shows, which is what we wanted to talk about today. As we are kind of diving in and trying to figure out what random shows we watch that are similar, we discovered that we have very opposite and different tastes regarding entertainment and the type of things that we indulge in. I tend to be a little bit more on the I'm gonna gently say it, the nerdy side.
Go for it.
Whereas, yeah, no, this is who I am. I grew up on Star Trek. I didn't grow up on Star Wars. I apologize to everybody out there who is judging me harshly right now, but I grew up on Star Trek. And even today I can go and watch an episode of Star Trek and feel grounded, especially The Next Generation. The hands down when I was up late at night nursing my daughter, that was what I was
Mm,
watching. I think I watched the entire series during that 8-week period because I wasn't sleeping, so I had to do something. Also, things like Doctor Who got me through my early to mid 30s and in a way that was when I was working all those hours, I could come home and completely turn my brain off and watch something that I really, really enjoyed. I have all sorts of nerd tattoos. I have a statement in Gallifreyan on one of my forearms. I have Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy on the other one, as well as something from what we are going to end up talking about today. But like I said, we have very opposing opinions on what good television looks like.
It just dawned on me that there's a certain quality about you that reminds me of my cousins, and it's that they love science fiction.
Hmm.
They love I'm sure they know the things that you're talking about. The only one I got was Star Wars, right?
Well, it's
That's it.
because we all wear tinfoil hats, is what it is. Hmm.
Yeah, no, I remember watching that growing up, and I can see how escaping to this other world, it works. I don't know, for me, it was like I couldn't understand the concept of what was happening in sci-fi when I was little, and they were older than me too, so but I always wanted to be into it, and I tried in during my teenage years, I tried again, my adult years, I'm like, "Ah, man," I feel like I missed I definitely have FOMO over not being like a Trekkie or whatever, or
Well,
liking sci-fi.
it's fun because everything gets wrapped up in most series, everything gets wrapped up within 45 minutes to an hour with like a nice little bow. A lot
Mhm,
of times it's episodic. They'll have this
mhm,
thing, they'll have this problem, they'll have a solution, and then they'll have an ending.
mhm.
It reminds me of when I was a kid and I would watch things like Full House where everything
Yeah.
was presented and wrapped up within 30 minutes. I miss that.
Mhm.
So
That's so
it's a
true.
throwback.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, that is really true. So, probably when we were younger, like something like Fuller House or Family Matters, we probably watched those same shows. But
Mhm.
as you were, like, reminiscing over the shows, it sounded like you were saying shows that got you through things, right?
Mhm.
And they were I don't know if you watched Scrubs. Did you watch
I
Scrubs?
did watch Scrubs. I
Hey,
loved Scrubs. We got
okay, we
another
have a
one.
which that one is kind of like our young adult years, right?
Mhm.
So Scrubs, and it's coming back. I don't did you
It
know
is. I'm
that?
so excited.
It's coming back this month. So maybe that's one we can watch together?
I love that they're
Maybe?
all old like us now
I
too.
know. Let's do you wanna do that? Do you wanna
I
watch
think
it
I'm
and we
down
can
with
talk
that.
about it? Okay, because I during the pandemic, I listened to the, Scrubs, rewatch podcast, and then when my life started picking up again, I didn't catch every episode, but I love a rewatch podcast.
I have not enjoyed one of those yet, so I'll have to get
No,
into
that's
it.
a good one. If you go back, I think you enjoy it. So that's one show, and I go back and forth through like serious shows and not. Like I loved Lost. Did you ever watch Lost? Or you?
I tried to watch the first season of Lost, and it was just a little bit heavy. Like when I get
Mm,
really anxious while I'm watching a show, I can't keep watching it.
yeah. So I used to really love like psychological thrillers.
Mhm.
Once I had my first child, it was like I cry at commercials, like don't show me even a sad commercial or even something really happy. I notice if you tell me a really happy story, I'll cry. So my whole body changed after that, but and then after um working in the hospital and COVID and then being a mental health counselor, I can't really watch really heavy shows, but I still do love them. I actually a lot of times I go online and find out the ending because then it
Mhm.
calms me down and then I finish watching it because I do enjoy it.
Spoilers. I do it all the
I
time.
I love spoilers. My husband, he does not like spoilers. My kids do. So, but I like spoilers if I ask for it. Just tell me
Mhm.
if I don't ask for it, don't tell me.
I like knowing that everything's gonna be okay, and if it's not, then I
Mhm.
don't have to finish watching that
Yeah.
episode.
Mhm. What are some other shows? So I loved This Is Us, which also
Aw.
has a rewatch. People really didn't said like, oh, they cried every episode. I didn't cry every episode, but I feel like it was such a good show. It hit on very universal experiences. As
Mhm.
specific as it was, it really I feel like that was a show that impacted so many people and brought up a lot of things for people. And I
Mhm.
think that some people who weren't ready for it, like to watch what it looks like to go through something, they weren't ready and then they just hated the show and stopped watching. But I really, really loved it. Let's see what else. And then I love right now I'm loving Will Trent.
I'm
I don't
not
know if you heard of
familiar.
that one.
Mm-mm.
That's a really good one. And it's yeah, it's a lot of action, but I like character-driven stories, but this one has, like, a lot of action, murder, and all of these things, but it really goes in depth to getting to know the characters.
That's pretty cool. And we happened to find one that we both were obsessed with for a period of time that had incredibly hysterical moments and just jaw-dropping, ridiculous antics, and also had some really serious underlying messages and tones that would hit you in the feelings if you were paying attention. And there's a couple of shows that each of these actors have put out since that I really wanna get into, but I was so excited to find out that we both watched The Good Place.
Love The Good Place.
It was phenomenal. I have stickers that say, "What would Chidi do?"
What would Chidi do? I hope that if you haven't watched The Good Place, that you go and watch it. That was like a transitional show for me. Like I watched it when the after COVID, when it was like the world was starting to open up, but like there weren't many places to go to yet, or maybe we
Mhm.
didn't feel so comfortable. So it was a show that that was an escape, but it had that perfect combination of maybe philosophy, or it makes you think, or it's about the afterlife, and it was depicted in a way that I had never thought of.
It was the afterlife as we assume it's going to be, and then suddenly it's not, and I think that was what I
Mhm,
enjoyed the most about it, and I must have watched it about the same time, I don't 100% remember, but I must have watched it about the same time, and I watched it with my children.
mhm.
And it became one of their comfort shows. I would come home from work and they would be watching The Good Place, and so I would sit down and watch whatever random episode they were watching, and I'm pretty sure I watched the entire series front to back, and then they watched the entire series front to back, and it was phenomenal, and the thing that cracks me up about the stickers that say, "What would Chidi do?" Most of the time, he would just have an existential crisis and a stomach ache. But as the character progressed, it became so much deeper and so much more than that. And just watching the character development, there were so many relationships that resonated with the living in grief and the loss of who you thought you were and the reasons why things happen the way they happen, and understanding that, there are some repercussions out there as well.
Yeah, he was definitely one of my favorite. And they were all my favorite, but they have something special about them. So it's like he didn't get why he wouldn't be in the good place. He's this philosopher and he is very moral and does everything the right way. But he didn't realize how he impacted other people around him, how frustrating he was to be around. His poor best friend was, I think Chidi was his best man, and he couldn't make a decision, and people around him felt like he was inconsiderate, and it was
Mhm.
yeah, that was just one of the things I loved about it, because you got to see how the character thought about themselves and how they played a part in everybody's life.
Absolutely, and that makes me think of the character Janet, who wasn't
Mhm,
necessarily an android, but she wasn't necessarily a human. She was an information sentient being. It was really fascinating.
mhm,
I'm apologizing ahead of time if there's any sort of spoilers in this, but there was a specific relationship between her and one of the other characters that when her memory was wiped and their memory was wiped, they forgot about the relationship. So later on in the show, when that character started a relationship with a third character, Janet responded. Her body remembered. Her body had grief. Like she could not
mhm,
understand why this was happening and why she was feeling certain kind of way until she found out that they had had a history together.
mhm.
And then suddenly everything kind of clicked into place and made sense for her, but she still couldn't approach the relationship in a healthy manner because of this history that she had. And there was just so much grief wrapped up in that, along with ridiculously hilarious moments. It was phenomenal.
I know, as you're talking about it, I'm thinking about how there were a lot, all of these losses were layered from their living life when they were on earth, and losing that life, and then all of their realizations, all their connections to the people in the afterlife, and losses within those as well, while being hilarious.
Absolutely hilarious. I think you were mentioning earlier before we were even recording
Mhm.
about Eleanor's trash bag theory, how she was a trash bag from, what is it, Arizona?
Yeah, I think so.
And it was fantastic because she would immediately, like, relive these moments in her life, remembering, and so we could see the sort of person that she was and the sort of person that she was becoming. And there was, as she grew and adapted and became a better version of herself, she had so much grief and remorse about how she
Mm,
treated people, and she finally realized what the impact that she had and who she actually wanted to be. And it was just beautiful watching that
mhm,
transition.
mhm. And she saw parts of herself that were good. She didn't see it in herself, but she saw it in others, and then that's why she was attracted to them and wanted to be around them and be like them.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Especially considering her initial soulmate was Chidi, and
Mhm,
so the 2 of them together were just phenomenal.
mhm,
Phenomenal, just the ridiculous amount of antics that came from that.
mhm,
Because she wanted to be a better person, and she saw that this person could teach her to be a better person. I remember one scene specifically where she was trying to make a decision at a yogurt shop and let someone behind her step ahead of her and ran all the way home to tell him that she did
mm,
a kind thing for somebody because in the past she wouldn't have. And there was just that moment of awareness and awakening and like a little bit of grief of the sort of person that she used to be.
mhm. And I guess redeeming herself as well.
Mhm. A lot of
Yeah,
redemption, which was kind of
yeah.
the whole point of the show. Is regardless of who you are or where you are, there's always that opportunity to grow and to learn regardless of the circumstances.
Yeah. And one of the ways I think of grief and how to live with it is to create meaning around it, purpose around it. And that's what she was doing. She was creating purpose. Like, how can I now make this better where I am? There was also this concept of the Jeremy Bear me, which I loved
Which
because
is my
that's
other
so
nerd
real.
tattoo. Yep. And my children love this because we have the idea of "I'll love you till the end of Jeremy Bear Me," but Jeremy Bear Me never ends. So it is a continuous loop of how they keep time in the afterlife.
Mhm.
And it was introduced in such a way that it rocked everybody's existence because it didn't make sense, but it gives you unlimited time and unlimited options to share, to be, to grow, to learn. It's endless, and I think that's
And
beautiful.
it has the twists and turns, and it's
Mhm.
not linear.
Because time isn't really linear. There's
Mm-mm.
between, like, memories and future thinking and all of the things that go along with that, time isn't really linear. It's happening all around us all at the same exact moment.
Mhm. Yeah. We were talking about maybe rewatching that too, but I feel like that's a show that I could kind of like you were talking about, like in the past when things like had to start and end. Also, when we were just watching TV, we could just turn on a show, and whatever episode it was on, and we would just watch that episode. Just like when your
Mhm.
daughters were watching it, you just watch that episode. That is truly a show that you can just put on an episode and really enjoy it.
Mhm. I feel the same way about The Office, but we don't have to divert onto that topic.
But that was another one that I tried to watch that it would, I didn't get into it. I had watched Schitt's Creek because you had told me about it, and it took me a little bit, but I ended up really loving it. Like
Mhm.
that's one of my favorite shows, and but with The Office, I didn't. I think I got to season 2, and I just couldn't get past it. But I know people adore that. Therapists adore that show. They write papers on it and everything. Like, but I'll probably go back to it. I'll probably go back to it.
Speaking of Schitt's Creek, and we had discussed collective grief not long ago, there was a huge outcry of collective grief when Catherine O'Hara passed.
Yeah.
That was devastating to so many, and all I could think was, I really hope that she knew while she was alive just how much of an impact she made on people's lives. There were celebrities all over the place posting on their socials about her and what she did for them and how she changed their lives, and I really hope that she knew that. I really do.
I hope so too. What was left or like her legacy, it's how she made people feel.
Mhm.
And that is truly what I believe that that's what we leave behind, that is our legacy of how other people feel when they're around us.
And that kind of reminds me of like not to give away the ending of The Good Place, but the idea of returning back to where you came from, like
Mhm.
returning outward, and what you leave behind is what people will remember.
Wow, you know what that just brought to mind is that we cannot avoid grief, right? Because like not I don't want to give spoilers. The show is so good. And no matter how we try to not feel losses, it is like a Jeremy Bearimy
Mhm.
right back to you. The loop will come right back. And yeah, but she's amazing. She meant a lot to so many people. Um, a mother, a friend. Um, a lot of people grew up with her.
She was Kevin's
Yeah,
mom.
she's, like, contagious, like, I loved her in Schitt's Creek, and then I realized, oh my gosh, she's been she's been a mom the mom in, like it was, like, Home Alone, Beetlejuice, right?
Yeah.
Like, she's had a lot of and because she passed, a lot of people are putting clips of things that she's been in. She's funny, like, she was funny,
She's
naturally.
incredibly talented, incredibly.
All right, so as we wrap up today's conversation, we're moving on to our favorite part of the show, Living Lost Lessons. This is where we bridge everything we've talked about with one tangible takeaway that you can use right now.
These lessons aren't about fixing the pain, but about finding a way to carry it. Sometimes it's a tool to practice, and other times it's reflecting on the meaning you've built from a loss you never asked for, the strength you gained even in the midst of the hard stuff. So, Diana, what is your living loss lesson for this week?
The power of changing your emotions to generate a different emotion. That is one of the, in the acronyms, accepts, that is the emotion part. And is what we talked about today was watching a comedy, watching something that still could make you think, but can make you help you get lost in it. And when we are on our phones, if we're feeling sad, to curate your feed to watch cute puppies or cats or people falling, whatever makes you laugh, to have some things that are your go-to that you go and watch or look at or read that will change that emotion like that
Hmm.
quickly.
And what comes to mind for me is, as you're speaking about that acronym, was the T, the thoughts, like how quickly we can change our thoughts by using these distress tolerance skills. And they're gonna look differently for everyone. Sometimes when I am upset about something, I will sit and crochet. Sometimes I will chew my nails, which isn't something I recommend, but it is, I will admit, something that I do. Or just take a moment and thinking about Schitt's Creek and The Good Place, and the changes that we all go through, and the things that we all reflect on, and the legacy that we leave behind. And like you said, the grief always comes back, and it's always going to come around, and it shows up at times we don't even expect it to, and then we respond a different way. It reminds me to make it okay and normalize those moments that I need a minute. Like,
Mhm.
I might just need to step away from whatever scenario is going on. If my kids are overwhelming me while I'm already overstimulated, or I'm actively participating in grief in that moment, it's okay to just change my thoughts by stepping away and just taking a moment, because nothing good is going to come if if I stay in it for an extended period of time, but it's not going to change unless I make the change.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being a part of our circle today. Remember, by sharing this episode, you're helping us reach someone else who's carrying their loss in silence. Let's keep growing this community together. Subscribe, follow, share, and know that your story matters.
And just as a reminder, this podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. While we are therapists, we are not your therapist, and this does not replace professional mental health care. If you feel like you would like to speak to someone, please reach out to someone professional near you. Thanks so much.
Bye. See you next time.